Hi there, and welcome to a fan episode of Chatting to the Fans. I don't know what to call it. This is my buddy Ultimate Delicious Pie, or as we say in French Canadian, Tarte Delicieux Ultime. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing very well, actually, thanks. The previous 7 minutes, we've just been giggling to each other, haven't we?
Yeah, it's been just fun. We have no scripted events. We don't know what we're doing here. We're just rambling on for a good 10, 20 minutes about the upcoming Mass Effect franchise installment, and yeah, it's been fun. It's fun to chat. I know that my channel gets a lot of hoopla about bashing on BioWare, but we do love their games. We're the sort of fans who can notice the flaws in games, and we don't apologize for what we see. So it's all good fun.
Yeah, I think there's nothing wrong with pointing out the flaws. Like, there's many game series that I do love, but I will easily kind of go, well, this is the problems with these games, but I still love them in spite of these things.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's kind of sad to see fans who only see the sensational or the surface of things. When you analyze games, you look at the meaning behind things, the plot. Why is this the right guy for the story? Why is the protagonist the way he is? And we try to say, okay, well, maybe if the writer was going for something else, or maybe he lost the idea, or maybe someone else took over. Those sorts of things creep in when you start to analyze things that don't make too much sense. But that is sort of the progression, how stories or sequels or chapters continue in a franchise that either go well or not. So we were just rambling on about some of the logistics of getting to Andromeda, whether this is relevant, and it's all really because of what happened at the end of Mass Effect 3 that this is even happening, really.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like, shall we start off with the actual Andromeda initiative? Like,
Well, that's the only relevant video that they've released that we can look at and say, wow, there's some substance for us to look at, right?
yeah.
So
Uh,
the initiative is pretty much, hey, we're an independent organization that suddenly has council backing. We have ridiculous amounts of money and time, and we're going to get the best of the best of four species, apparently, or at least from the human side, we know we are. And we're going to put you up in lockup in a cryo Mass Effect field in a ship, and then we're going to help build a giant space station for whatever reason, and then put a bunch of like hundreds of thousands of people in there and also put them in lockup of different denominations of species. We're not going to finish building that because that's too big. Then we're going to launch everything into FTL for hundreds and hundreds of years, and everything's going to go swimmingly. We're going to be in low power, and we're eventually going to. And then there's of course the fighters that come out at the last minute. I don't know what that's for,
I
to protect you from I don't know what asteroids. What's going to be at the edge of a galaxy?
I think they just need some military presence just to justify some kind of quota, you know? It's
Oh,
like,
really?
yeah. But the thing that really, initially, when you look at the Andromeda Initiative, is that for thousands of years, like the Asari came before, then it was the Solarians. They've been around for thousands of years, right? And yet the humans come along, and then within 2 decades, they're like, oh yeah, we can totally build a drive that can go to Andromeda.
And that was revealed on the website. It wasn't in a video. It wasn't in the codex. It's like, oh, by the way, we invented a way to fix that horrible problem of your ship exploding if you go too long, too far in FTL. You're welcome.
So I know humans are great and all, but it's like, and yet no one else before, in the millions and millions of years, in the other iterations of the other cycles, no one ever bothered to think like this.
I know. It's like having a perpetual hydrogen machine for a car, and the only waste product is water. It's like,
Yeah.
wow. In this case, FTL, the waste product is electricity. Gee, I guess we don't need electricity. Let's just throw it out the airlock, right? No, we use it to power our entire ship with it. So yeah, great idea there, BioWare. Thanks for filling that hole in for us.
Yeah, because one of the ideas I initially thought was how are they going to get there? I was like, well, maybe they're going to like repurpose a mass relay to be like a big giant space gun, and that when it fires you, the only thing you have to worry about is your deceleration process. So you basically all your energy is going to be you slowing down because you're just going at like super high velocity.
That would be
And that's
interesting. Like you'd
yeah,
be slowing down for like 30 years or so. Once you like get halfway, it's like, okay, we're going insanely fast,
yeah,
like way beyond speed of light. And we don't know how to control that. We can just do it, and then we have to manually slow down ourselves. That'd be interesting.
It'd be like Dark Helmet off Spaceball.
Ludicrous speed.
Yeah. I mean, how is it now? The thing that really bothered me was when they sort of said, all right, the Nexus is going to be incomplete upon launch. And I'm just like, why? What's the rush?
What's the point of the thing? Why do we need a space station? What's the... I can't wrap my head around it. If you're doing a deep space voyage and you're like, okay, we're going to make 4 ships. We each have conditions for environment, for people going into cryo. It's very specific. And then, oh yeah, we're going to have a gigantic ship. We'll call it a space station that's not even finished. And it's like a whole other magnitude of work that is just sort of, yeah, we'll just tack that on. This is like 10, 20 times the amount of effort and resources, and it's not finished. What does it do? Like, what's the purpose? I don't know.
Well, initially I thought it was going to be like the mothership off like Homeworld, whereby it's going to store all your manufacturing, industrial capacity, and all the stuff that you basically need to remake a civilization in another galaxy. But when they sort of said, oh no, it's going to be launched incomplete, and I'm like, well, how are you going to be building that when you're in FTL most of the time? Like, why?
It would be interesting if there was a plot or some sort of story where they explained why it couldn't be finished, and they thought, you know what, it's so expensive, it's going to take so long, we really have to launch now. When we get there, one of our main goals is to find a resource-compatible planet for what our needs are, and finish the project there, and then we go start finding a homeworld. I don't know. It sounds like there's more to the story we don't know.
Well, the thing is that they did actually say that it's going to be completed upon arrival, so that means that all the storage is all packed up in that upper arm.
That makes no sense.
I know, it's like, just complete it at this dry dock, for goodness sake. Don't go this IKEA method of building it en route, please. Because your engineers are going to have to be like waking up, going out there, building the extra arm, then going back into sleeve, and it's just build it in dry dock. And what if something breaks when you're in halfway through the galaxy? I doubt your Amazon Prime account can get that far, you know?
So just imagine how this would work logistically. You have a massive space station. You have all these, I don't even know, I guess you would tow a meteorite with you with all these raw materials. And then you're going, while you're in FTL, you're going outside the space station, you're mining this stuff. You're then putting it into the space station, you're refining it, you're smelting it, you're doing all this wonderful stuff to stretch out the metal and attach it to the rest. It's crazy. It's kind of a weird response to how things are made. Now, if it's a lot of automated stuff, the way the Citadel has the keepers and they do everything for you while you're asleep, okay, maybe, possibly. It's still a weird thing to bring up. And it's really a massive liability when you're going on a trip somewhere and your main hub of personnel and resources isn't even ready. And you're going to work on it as you go. It's like I'm about to go on a long trip and 3 of my wheels are working on my car. The 4th one has a flat, but it'll still go. And I'm going to repair the 5th wheel and replace it as we go. It's like, whoa, that's nuts.
Yeah.
So that's just the traveling part. Then they had to invent the whole the Odyssey drive. So we have juice for not destroying ourselves after 20 hours or whatever the maximum limit was. It took like that long. It took like the human race to figure out to use the dangerous byproduct of electricity.
The Reapers haven't solved this as well.
Oh, they haven't? I don't know.
I don't know, really, because we don't know what the Reapers are capable of.
Right.
But considering that they also have to land on planets, they use element 0 cores, which I actually thought when they talked about the distance involved, that they were going to repurpose like Sovereign's remnants from his old FTL drive. Like, that's how they were going to get that fast. Like, that's all the basis of their technology was done.
I do know they're twice as fast, but I mean, relative to our fastest ships at the time that the Codex was written, so...
I think that it's twice as fast as a Citadel vessel, so I think something like 10,000 times the speed of light. And Citadel's like 4,500, if I'm remembering that correctly. It's some ridiculous speed, but yeah, when you look at, let's say, how they repurposed, like how they got the Phoenix cannon, I was like, okay, the humans nabbed Sovereign's drive core and then started to replicate it. It wasn't as good, but it's bloody well efficient, so therefore it doesn't have all these problems. But no, they just invented a completely new drive, so everything's hunky-dory, folks.
The problem I had was with the calculations I made were that the speeds themselves were significantly faster for a ship, but compared to the Phoenix cannon or a normal dreadnought class-sized main gun, are significantly less. They're very slow, and I'm trying to rationalize how would a very small projectile be slower than something gigantic like a starship when they're using the same technology to push this thing through space. So I didn't understand that, and that's why I made that video about, well, if we have this technology to launch ships this fast, why can't we launch a little sand grain or even a 2 kilogram piece of metal and just rip right through a Reaper if it came near us? I didn't understand why. There's some explanation like, oh, well, they're using a ship's drive core and it's fueling the whole thing. It's like, well, you don't need to fuel one launch. You just launch it. It's done. You don't have to do anything. So I didn't understand why the technology was lacking with projectiles, even though we know it's extremely fast. Like there's no aerodynamics with the shaving of a ammo block from the Mass Effect 1 guns. It's just
I mean, that propeller on the Crucible?
Well, that's a whole other ball of wax. I don't want to remember anymore. I still have to imagine what that microphone was with the bizarre things that stick. Oh no, I don't want to think about.
No matter what we do, we always come back to that thing, don't we?
Well, everything is because of Mass Effect 3. We have to accept this, and they have to accept
the soft reboot.
Yeah, and we have to think like what were some of the Reapers doing out in dark space that didn't come to the Milky Way? We were talking about this before we started recording. You know, if they have billions of years, and it takes them, if they go by what we know of them, their speeds, it would have taken them 300 years to get from the Milky Way to Andromeda. Well, they would have visited other galaxies by now. They would have done their same philosophy, and why wouldn't they have? I mean, they have nothing better to do. So they would just keep doing it. So when you get to Andromeda, what's going to be there? A whole bunch of Reapers.
Yeah. Andromeda is the closest galaxy, isn't it, to us?
Yeah, and the interesting thing about Andromeda is actually on a collision course for the Milky Way. So it's actually coming closer and closer as the eons
Maybe that's
go by.
That's what the Reapers are trying to do. They're trying to push Andromeda away. Like
Well, we just fixed the ending to Mass Effect 3 again by having a different idea of what they're trying to do.
Yeah, they're basically building a big giant mass projector just to push it away. Like,
yeah, exactly.
That's actually quite an unfathomable thing to a mortal mind. Yeah.
A lot of science fiction deals with really big, like really good science fiction, like Asimov or Egon, or they deal with things that are just taking extremely long amount of time, extremely far distances, and large forces in the galaxy. So that was kind of the guide that Drew, for the writer, was sort of implying with all this dark energy talk and what is it doing, why those were littered throughout Mass Effect 2. And they ultimately came to nothing because they decided that AI versus organics was so much better a topic for some reason.
Well, I think Mac and Casey probably finished watching the reimagined Battlestar Galactica, if you've ever seen that.
It's possible. I don't know. I honestly thought the original Mass Effect, was heavily inspired by Babylon 5. I made mention of that in some of my videos. There's so much comparison. Obviously, we're talking about apples and oranges, but the themes are very similar. Some of the elements are there. The Vorlons versus the Shadows, the ambassadors all on a giant space station. It's very similar to the first game, at least. The second and third games go their own way. So,
yeah. All right. Where are we now? Okay, let's say, for example, we're back in Andromeda, and One of the things that I don't really understand about the Pathfinder thing is that the Pathfinder is with the art crews themselves. So I was like, surely the notion of a Pathfinder is to be ahead of the group. That's what a Pathfinder is.
Yeah, that's true. But the thing is, they have multiple missions, and it's like you have to find a home world, but you're also exploring, and then you have to find another home world because you can't just have one because we're going to assign you to different ones. And then there's a mystery in the galaxy you have to figure out. And I'm like, well, what are our missions? Is there like a series of priorities we have to hit? And is it just to get resources? Is it just to find a home world? Is it I don't know, to communicate to new aliens and befriend them and to bring them onto the Citadel and then show them this nice long corridor about how great we are? And I don't know. I don't know what their missions are exactly. I think we get a mixed message from all the interviews that Walters has done. And what's the goal of the story? I don't know. And what we've been told about the ending is after the ending's over, you're going to get some DLC. I call it Day 2 DLC because it's very similar to Day 1 DLC, where you'll get squad mates that will help you investigate or explore certain missions or certain planets better, I think. And what that's about, I don't understand the philosophy behind that. So it's a combination of exploration and finding a home world and unlocking the mystery that is the vaults, whatever that's for. I don't know.
I no idea. I mean, I think they're just going around and being like Raiders of the Lost Ark or something, just wanting to just steal some alien technology just because it's there. I mean, the Remnants are very, funny enough, reminiscent of like the Necrons out of Warhammer 40k.
Okay.
Like, basically, the Necrons. I'm not sure if you know about 40k lore or anything like that, so I don't want to assume anything.
That's okay. Inform the audience in case they don't know either.
All right. So basically, the Necrons are just essentially this ancient robotic race from like one of the very first times in the Milky Way in Warhammer 40k, and there's a big long history around it all, but I'm going to just do an abridged version. And essentially, every couple of million years, they rise up and harvest souls, or at least that's what they originally did. Their purpose has changed now, but they go in like these big like tomb worlds, whereby like billions of them are all like resting and slumbering, and then every now and then they wake up, or if intruders get in, and so they kind of got this almost galactic cycle of destruction. Really, it's very reminiscent of that. And then when I saw the Remnants, it very much reminded me of the Necrons, even though they did kind of some of the technology looked very Prothean-esque as well. I will admit, like with the whole glowy lines and stuff.
Yes, the whole design, the curvilinear lines from Mass Effect 1, you see that not only from the Protheans, you see that through the Citadel, you see that in the human design, even the Normandy follows. Yeah, they all follow that long arc.
But this is in Andromeda, like they don't have mass relays, and their technology is going to diverge in a completely different avenue than mass relay-based technology, right?
Well, they have to have something. They have artificial gravity, we know that. And they have to have something to get around the galaxy aside from FTL. There has to be something equivalent to mass relays.
I don't know, maybe they're just going to utilize Mac Walter's ego just to propel them. Just like they just orbit and then he just slingshots them around.
Well, it's possible the vaults are planets that act as hubs for transport. Who knows? I mean, there's really...
Yeah.
They can go any way with this, but there has to be an explanation for travel.
Yeah, considering that it's the reveal trailer where like you see the guy, he's checking the planet and he boops the little button and then suddenly it's just instantaneously at that place. So that's like almost hyperdrive, isn't it? Level of
that whole trailer was. I'm not sure what they were going for. Like, okay, if you want to show off a Mass Effect game to me, you have to do one thing, and that one thing is dialogue and the dialogue wheel. And if they don't do that, where are we going now? What has Mass Effect become? I'm actually going to make a video series about this because it's so strange. Like Mass Effect 1, as weird and flawed as it was, it worked. You wanted to drive around them. A lot of people didn't like the Mako. I understood that. I understood why.
Yeah.
But you wanted to explore, and that was part of it. So you wanted to go around. You wanted to check out these nooks and crannies. You wanted to do things differently. And it all came to the choices you could make and the dialogue's options you had available to you. And they only showed the dialogue wheel in its new version in one instance. And it was like whoop-de-doo. You had 4 options, 3 of them were the same. and one of them was you telling the truth, and you're like, that really doesn't paint a picture of what appealed to people, at least to me. I don't know other players; they see different things, of course. But what Mass Effect really is all about, and to me, it's that the social aspect that other games have taken strictly to doing storytelling. The whole Telltale series of games is purely cinematic, conversational, multiple path ways of doing things, and that was, I thought, should have been the focus. And obviously they've taken the Mako and turned it into a dune buggy. They've taken the corridor shooting and turned it into open world corridor shooting.
It's more arena based, isn't it? Now,
I'm not sure. It's hard to describe what it is. It looks like Dragon Age Inquisition, or rather, it plays like Dragon Age Inquisition, but it looks like Mass Effect 1. And
sorry.
Yeah, it seems like the enemies aren't either reacting properly, or they don't know how to take cover, or
because they removed the cover mechanic entirely. If you've known that.
Well, you can't take cover. I've seen the infiltrator when he cloaks. He's behind a rock and he pops out and zooms in first person mode with his.
All right.
Yeah.
So some of the ones I've seen, just like you see this guy crouch, like there wasn't any like I have to press up against the wall.
Crouching was one thing we missed in Mass Effect 2 onward. Why did they get rid of it? Because it's too. I think they actually talked about it. It was too easy because you can crouch anywhere. And you could technically hide behind cover while still having your scope open. And I think that's actually one of the things that I think was Mike Gamble who was mentioned in Mass Effect 2, yeah.
That's called being smart and utilizing cover to approach them. Because one of the problems about Mass Effect 2 is that, let's say you got that big Waimea mech coming towards you, rather than just simply peeling back behind said cover, no, you have to stand up like a goddamn moron and take a rocket to the face, Oh, brilliant, Commander Shepard, It's a good thing that these Mass Effect shields completely absorb everything,
Well,
which is...
some of it's different. Some of it's going to be really interesting. I wish that they would make Biotics as powerful as it should be. I never like the descriptions of the Biotics. Like you could hurl an object at like a bowling ball at like Mach 1 speeds. Like that would do some serious damage. And because everyone else has these fields, it's just like blink. Oh, they just pop right off them. And I was expecting a little bit more impact. And that was the problem with Biotics, is that you have to whittle down their shields or their kinetic barriers, and then you could play with them. So it's like, oh.
Yeah. Well, that actually goes completely against like one of the things that I loved about Mass Effect 1's lore was that the lore was included in the game design itself. So like biotics, radiation, liquid, all of these things that your kinetic barriers wouldn't protect against would just simply go through it. So you had to armor up in multiple different ways. Whereas they just overly simplified it to the point, like you say, you have to pop the shield before your biotics become useful. I'm like, no, that's not how it works, because it's energy that you're flinging. Your barriers don't protect against energy-based attacks.
I remember the talk. It was like a slideshow presentation by Christina Norman, and she talked about the streamlining of Mass Effect 2's RPG elements. And one of the first things she says was she looked at the screen, one of the screenshots of your character and all the skills you could put into points into. And she says, "What are all these things? What do they mean? I don't even remember." And it's like, well, that's kind of a staple of the D&D or RPG character sheet, where you level up, you get some points, and then you have options. You can do things with these points. And you could specialize in hacking. You could specialize in stealth. Like, that's the point. And then when you streamline that with Mass Effect 2 and 3, it's like, oh, I'm going to be this guy who might have a better warp ability as opposed to a core ability or something. It's like, well, that sort of defeats the purpose. And with that comes the lack of customization with you and your teammates. So it didn't really matter whether you brought Tally along with you or not anymore. You could always hack a door. It didn't matter if you brought a Liara with you or anymore. One of your guys is going to know biotics to do something. It's going to happen. So a lot of things were lost. I'm not saying the gameplay in Mass Effect 1 was this amazing combination of elements that worked perfectly, but it lost that planning. It lost that element of tactics and strategy for figuring out who do you take with you. And
Well,
now it's just like, yeah, I like this chick because she's got a black outfit on. When I helped her out find her sister, it's like, what? Okay,
uh,
great.
yeah, it's the obviously that's the reward. It's like, congratulations, you found your sister. Here's a new dress. Um, but one of the things about Andromeda is that, not just, I'm sure you know about this, but they said that you can basically respec your points whenever you want to. So, because your character's biotic anyway, I assume, because you can put stuff into biotics. So basically, they've broken the class system to a degree.
To a degree, they said there are 7 classes, and I was trying to figure out what the hell they meant. Because yeah, you're right. You can
It's
just
specializations, yeah, that you
yeah,
can
you
forward
could put
into.
points into anything, and I'm like, well, that's kind of cool. Kind of like Skyrim, you just do whatever you want, and then once you get to a certain level, then you start specializing. And I'm like, oh, okay. Then is it like Arch Wizard? Like what's the
Yeah.
class then? You're like Super Vanguard? Like what's the
Yeah,
point then?
yeah, because I like the idea of like you can put your points in everything, but then one of the sort of a staple of RPGs is whenever you play through the game once, you usually have like your quote unquote squad, and it's based around like you got yourself, and then obviously you have your other characters around that. But if you can put points into anything, then you might just stick around with the same guys, and you might not utilize other squad mates and such like that. That was kind of the pro and con, really. That was kind of weighing up in my head a little bit there.
Oh yeah, I wanted to replay Mass Effect One. I think I've done it at least a dozen times, and you want to say, okay, how does Sentinel play out? And I remember going the healer route, and I thought, wow, this is pretty good because sometimes I'm not very good at gameplay or whatnot, and I can just heal everyone, and they get all their health back, and then you get Ashley, who's like a tank, and she's basically invincible because of that. I can't remember the name of the ability.
It's immunity or something like that.
Yeah, she's like her and Rex were just invincible.
Yeah, as soon as they got that, nothing could like touch them, not even biotics could touch them. It's great.
Yeah, you just sit back. They take on an armature by themselves. It's like okay.
Yeah, just like run up towards it with a shotgun. Boom.
Yeah, so they obviously streamlined everything, and I'm not saying again, Mass Effect 2 was a great improvement of gameplay. They redesigned the entire weapon system, but the mentality was they take away things that either were too complicated or just didn't work, like the inventory system. They just scrapped it entirely. There's no inventory. There's no,
Yeah.
you can't swap this. One guy's gonna get really good at shotguns. One guy's gonna get really good at this. No, no, no. It's all classes. It's all streamlined. You have your loadout and you're done. So then you have the flaws in the story where the cutscenes will have various characters with assault rifles, even though they can't actually physically carry them, or they never even could carry them, and they just pops out of nowhere. So I don't mind them fixing things, but when a fix breaks something, then you got to step back and say, what were you thinking? Like, didn't anyone notice this? That Miranda just does not carry assault rifles. It just does not happen. It just then boom, it does. So yeah, we're going to see a lot of the guns popping out of nowhere. I'm sure. I don't think they've. It's been 3 games. They haven't fixed the problem. So yeah, you're going to have the avenging assault rifle of the Avenger assault rifle of bitch slap just pop out of nowhere.
It's the new assault rifle, isn't it? 'Cause I looked at the design of it, and they basically like rather than having lots of holes, and especially like the buttstock and such, they just basically filled that in with some kind of gel or
Oh
something.
really?
I'm joking, of course. I'm being facetious here, but one of the things I don't right is the whole thermal clip thing. I have to do a rant about this. I do apologize, but oh, not too sure if we lost each other then.
Are you there? Are you there?
Yeah, sorry, we just kind of cut out there.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, good. I was wondering what was going on.
All right. Sorry, it just kind of. I was going to be talking to myself, but I was like, "Don't leave me with these people. Don't leave me with these people. They're scary." But yeah, like the whole thermal clip thing. I mean, okay, let's go Mass Effect 2 and 3, but in Andromeda, I'll never understand it because you are imposing an unnecessary logistical feat on soldiers that shouldn't really need it. It's stupid.
When you look back at the invention of the musket and all the other weapons, the cartridge and the reloading, that was a whole process. And to suddenly bring it back or something like that, to bring them a limitation to a combat scenario, which is literally milliseconds of life and death, does not make any sense.
I don't know. It's because when you're dealing with things on planetary warfare, and when you stick a bunch of soldiers, marines, whatever you want to call them, down on that planet, you have to assume that there's a good chance that those guys and girls are going to be cut off. So you need to remove as much logistics as they possibly can from them. So if you can remove ammunition from their equation, then they can carry more water, food, medical supplies, survival gear, so that their operation, they can stand out there and bet it for operations. You know, so if they do get cut off, they can last, let's say, a couple of years because of that weapon, rather than, let's say, with a thermal clip, well, they're going to be over it. They're going to be out of ammunition in the first firefight.
That was interesting. Remember, when you do pick up Javik and you see his assault rifle, it's a replenishing energy weapon. You just sit back and wait 5 seconds, like your health, and it just comes back.
Yeah.
And we eliminated that because reasons. And
like, to me, that would have been a lot more interesting if that was a more Terminus/Batarian based equipment, like their Mass Effect technology isn't as advanced as the Council races. You know, like they have to, you know, their heat, you know, due to limitations, sanctions, whatever, they have to basically have like a thermal ejection core system because they just don't have the materials needed to make the necessary stuff, you know, and that explains why you're going in there, because you don't want to be looking in the terminal systems like SEAL Team 6, because you're going to stand out like a bloody sore thumb and everyone's going to try and kill you.
And it makes sense because they don't have the resources. They have to rely on simpler tech to do the job. The problem is the simpler tech actually works better, so they'd have to like have no access to like the Citadel races, and then somehow jury rig their own stuff and explain why their weapons are much more crude, and they could be stronger because they went a different path, but they're limited. They're not as efficient, or they're not as long lasting. Yeah. So yeah, that'd be interesting to get a bunch of weapons that don't follow the same specs of ammunition as because we're talking about a whole new galaxy. We're talking about a whole bunch of people that don't know each other, that are at different technological levels, and like that's the problem with this whole races coming together. You have to assume they're all on the same level. One's above, like the Asari were above the rest, so they sort of uplifted all the others with their technology. So they all have Mass Effect amps in their brains now, and they all have certain types of guns now. So that's sort of understood, but you still need that explanation. So I want to see that with the aliens. With any, I'm not actually going to play the game. I'm just saying any science fiction, when there are aliens, you have to explain this within a society. There's trade, there's a currency system, there's some sort of laws preventing certain things from happening. It's not just I have fish, I have nuclear weapons. Wow, I've never heard of fish before. Let's check that out. It's not just like the day the Earth stood still, where the alien comes by and, well, we carry diamonds because they're small and simpler. Can I have 2 of your dollars for 2 of my diamonds? The kid's like, okay, sure. Yeah. So yeah, it's there has to be some sort of a race relation or species relations that are completely alien. And yeah,
there's your relation. There you go. Job's done. You don't need to do anything else. Because
you have clothes.
That's actually one of the most, like, that's actually inherently like, oh, did you fall over?
No, I'm okay. I was scratching my head.
I just said I was like, oh Christ, I should have called someone. Sorry. But it's like the whole idea, like, oh, I can relate to you because your clothes. I was like, oh right, that's why I saved the Rachni Queen, because she was wearing a beanie.
Oh, don't talk about the Rachni. Oh.
No. I wasn't. That's enough handed. Forget about it. But the thing is, is it the cat that I think that they called them? Right. That are going to be your main antagonist. And it's like they could go down a completely different technological road of how they utilize weaponry. They could use lightning arc guns, radioactive guns, freaking anything. In fact, they don't even have to use guns themselves. They could actually just be a purely melee race.
Oh, wow.
For all we know. Like, But no, they're all bipedal. They've all got fingers, so you can pick up their weapon as well, rather conveniently. This could be like the aliens off District 9, where they have to have like some kind of biomechanical feature to them that you have to implant. But no, I don't think they're going to go down that route.
Well, the only thing that we need is an explanation that makes sense. Like, we need to know why we're going to Andromeda. It's that simple. We don't care that we have jetpacks. We don't care that our vehicle can go 130 kilometers an hour or whatever. Like, we don't care. We want to know why these things are. And if they would just tell us, we are going to Andromeda because, and as opposed to going to the next solar system over that we haven't discovered yet. Like, there has to be good reasons. And everyone's in the comments that are fans of the game or fans of the franchise are like, because they're explorers. What's wrong with going to Mars? And I'm like, well, there's lots of reasons why you don't go to Mars, as opposed to going to the moon or wherever. If you want to explore, there's other ways of doing it that is cost effective, time effective, and does not this could be an entire waste of time if you think about it. Spending that amount of time in traveling to get to a spot you don't know what's going to happen just because you're curious. You are very bored and very rich. I mean, you are.
Yeah, I need to buy another boat.
Yeah, I want another galaxy to explore. Like, what are you talking about? No.
See, actually, I just thought of an idea that popped into my head just right now. I know my brain's only small, but I was like, why not let's just say like the Asari sent something out to Andromeda thousands of years ago, and then they got a reply back, and then the Andromeda initiative kicks in due to the, length of, due to the distances.
That would be interesting.
Because that would kind of go, we got a reply.
Yeah, that would be like they sent someone out, or they did send something out, and they came back, and it's like, hey, there's something there. We totally got to get on. This is amazing. Yeah, that would be, I think, a simple first contact scenario that would prompt someone with power and authority and money to do that. I mean, when we look at other stories like in the Star Trek universe, they have gone past the need for basic requirements like food and clothing and money. Everything can be replicated. Energy is pretty much free. So there are all the problems that exist as we would think of them are gone. So to do things like exploration for the sake of it, you have a lot more leeway with that. In Mass Effect, it's just a bunch of people in space. They happen to have FTL, and they happen to have all these other things. There's limitations to that. So why do this? And it's basic return on investment. What am I spending for how long? And what am I going to get out of it? And if it's just to explore, that will not, like, no one will do that. Like when you think about, there's all these ridiculous missions to Mars that we have. There's this billionaire who wants to create habitat modules, and it's been going on for years, right? You have to sign up, you have to get vetted, and all this crap. I think it's a giant publicity stunt. I don't think it's real. But like, why would you burn all this money and time to do a reality TV show on Mars? It doesn't make any sense. I still can't fathom why they want to do it. So, like, maybe there is a reason. I don't know what it is. You have to tell me. And this is the same thing. You have to tell me why we're going so ridiculously far. When you look at a game that did do it right, and that's Sid Meier's Alpha Centauri, and there was no confusion of exploration. This is an RTS. You land on a planet. The whole story takes place on one planet. It's a living planet. There's all these things. And the world is broken down into the factions, human factions and alien factions of philosophy of how to govern, how to control people, how to lead people. And there's all this philosophy of what came before you with humanity, like Plato and Aristotle and science and all this stuff. And that alone is way more conflict that's necessary to tell a story like that. So when you start throwing in aliens like the Ket and there's vaults and trying to find a home world in a galaxy in a series of solar systems, you're like, okay, like, how far do you have to go to tell a story that's going to work? And why are you going this far? You could have exploration. You could have all these elements, but you don't need to complicate things. to this degree. And I think this is the same problem that was in Mass Effect 3. This sort of started with Mass Effect 2 because the scope was totally unknown. And here the scope is kind of inverted. It's just so big. And we have a simple mission. It's like, well, that shouldn't be that hard. We have technology to terraform. We have technology to grow things. We can genetically replace things. We can do all that. We can do cloning like crazy. We have cybernetics. We can do all these wonderful things. What's the point? And that's all we need. And that's why I feel it's failing at the premise. There's lots of other reasons why I'm not going to check out the game, but this is science fiction genre 101. These are the things that go through someone's head before you even pick up a book at the library or the bookstore and go, okay, who's this writer? Does he know what he's doing? Give me one chapter with this guy. If he doesn't get it going within 15 pages, I'm out. And with a video game, there's even more complexity. There's even more things to look at. So there's going to be one or two things that stand out so bad, and the average player, the average BioWare fanboy, won't even notice it. They won't even care. And I gotta understand where the hell their demographic is. If they're selling model kits and RC model kits of their car, who is this for? Like, who are these people? I've never met the Nomad, isn't it? Little remote control thing. Yeah, I've met anime fans who love model kits but those are of like mechs, of like really cool Gundam models, and they build them themselves. This is a model that's just you buy it and it's like, okay. And the other one is you buy it and you juice it up and you can run around with it on your backyard. So I don't know if there's a crossover between the RC model people and sci-fi space opera people. There must be, or else they wouldn't have done this.
I have no idea. I think because they kind of go, the Mako's back, but it's the Mako's retarded cousin because it doesn't have a big gun on it.
Yeah, take away the cool thing of the Mako. I mean, why would they take away the guns? I don't know.
Well, keep in mind, they are peaceful explorers. That's why they're going utterly, completely unarmed and unprepared, for this kind of stuff. I mean, like the whole, like we're talking about the Nexus stuff, and they go, oh, the Nexus is incomplete, but we've got a wing of fighters. It's like, it'd be really great if you built the Nexus and complete it, then you could have fighter bays and frigate bays. So just in case some big bad meanie alien race wants to come and knock 7 bells of snot out of you. I'm just saying, guys.
Why not forget the siege ships or whatever those arc things are? Build the damn station. Put everything you want on the station. Yeah. Load it up to the brim with hundreds of thousands of people, every race, every species, every scientist you can possibly imagine that want to go through with this. Yeah, then get the hotshot fighters and put them into cryo and all that crap. And then go. And then you're all set. And then you could, I don't know, whatever a space station would do in a solar system that they haven't discovered yet. Because I don't even know how they figured out their solar systems there. There has to be like stages to travel there. Like they have to do like when they get to the edge of the galaxy, like, okay, well, we have a few options where we slow down and it's going to take us 1 year here, 2 years there. Like, what do we do? So
sorry, I was going to say something then. I talked about the Pathfinder. Your character's dad is a Pathfinder, I think.
Right.
But he's ahead of you, so that must mean that I think I was wrong about the whole. Did they send out? They didn't send out an expedition. So obviously they sent people out beforehand. It's like, normally, aren't you supposed to wait for them to kind of go, okay, guys, all clear?
Yeah. Well, I thought the idea was that he goes out, something happens, he's gone now, and now they wake up other people to be Pathfinders. And it happens to be, for some reason, his children.
Oh, right. Or the Hyperion, looks like the Hyperion crashes or something like that.
It's not clear. I'm sure they'll reveal it, but it sounds...
It's on the box art, yeah.
It sounds as if they just went with, okay, the guy that we thought would do the job, the N7 agent, is toast. How about his kids? They sound good, right?
Yeah, the N7 is genetic, right? We just plug that in and he's like... We've got all the genetic coding and stuff. Which this is actually something that, because they remove mass relays, so instantaneous travel unless they've got another method. But I'd say because they can't assume that there's going to be instantaneous travel. They can not assume that at all. So it's like, why not put these people through some kind of program that like alters them, like in the Mars series, that they go for like life extension programs because they know they're going to have to be on Mars for so long that you can't just have the average human lifespan. And yet, and because the Pathfinder, because you've got a limited amount of people as well, you have to make them as robust as possible. So in case something happens to them, because you can't kind of go, well, our lead scientist is gone. Jim, not sure if you know that in the background. It's like, hey, Jim, you're the new lead scientist. He's like just the technician. It's like you would have to. There has to be redundancies, and I can get the idea of the arcs. Like people kind of say not putting their eggs in like one basket, but I was like, but then why have all humans on one Taurian element? You'd mix it up a little bit because you kind of go, well, the Taurian arc's gone. Well, whoops.
There go the Turians. Well, they didn't make it. Oh well.
Oh well. That's repayment. That's reparations for the First Contact War.
Yeah. Well, then you have to imagine that what the space station is doing. That it has the Odyssey drive on it. It has all the same technology as the Ark ships have, sleeper pods, and it's got every species imaginable there. And it just doesn't make sense. As soon as they say that, it's like, okay, well, we have Ark ships. And we have a space station. I know we're sort of repeating ourselves here, but it just we reach onto another point, and it just does not make sense. There's something backwards about this game, or at least the way they're presenting it to us. That the questions are already coming in, and when that's happening, it's either going to be another pile of the likes we've never seen before. That happened during the ending of Mass Effect 3, that you question after question. It's like, how did this happen? Why did this happen? What's the logic behind this? How could a race of billion-year-old species or absorb the knowledge of the whole known galaxy every 50,000 years be so dumb and not see things out and not solve it? And now we're seeing, okay, well, why are they... Like, form has to follow function. You have to explain the instance of objects for a project of this scale and magnitude to have a clear, discernible goal. And to have 4 Ark ships for redundancy makes sense, but not to segregate all the species based off biology. Oh, well, this sleep pod is a lot different than that sleep pod. It's like, so what? It's a sleep pod. You're not doing anything. You go in there, you're cryogenically frozen, and that's it. You open up, you're done. That's all it's supposed to do. So I really want to know what that explanation is. I'm just curious. Like there's all kinds of talk about science fiction and cryogenics, and to throw in a Mass Effect field, I'm like, okay, what the hell is that going to do?
Yeah, it's unnecessary power. But there's a bit in the very first gameplay footage that they actually showed off when they go to that. Is it the spaceport? Like the bit where you sort of see the female Taurian and the Krogan. And one of the things that really kind of got in my head was, it's like, oh, I think the Krogan says something like, she's done very well despite being kicked off the station. I was like, who gave her all this stuff? I mean, normally when you get fired from a job, you maybe steal like a couple of pens or a chair or something. But the Nexus is just like, oh yeah, help yourself to all this stuff.
That we're not even finished building our station yet. Just take all these resources we're not going to need for the next 20,000 years.
Why would you hire someone like that who's just going, oh, something's gone wrong. I've had an argument with someone. Well, I'm going to start off my own little fiefdom on planet Bob.
It's like, oh, our Pathfinders or our non-Pathfinder is doing our job of our Pathfinders for us. Thank you.
Because then it's like they don't seem to understand any kind of colony process. Like, you're on an alien world, so you have to look at the flora and fauna. People, because you could touch a flipping plant and that could have some kind of weird and wonderful disease, or you can go into anaphylactic shock. So, like, surely wouldn't these initial colonies be like domed off and go through quarantine processes? Like, I was hoping for the actual colonization process, like we actually witness it firsthand. But it's like, no, we just stick a building down there and we're done. We've claimed it now. It's marvelous.
And we can scan planets from orbit since Mass Effect 2 for resources and magically mine them. So I don't know why we need to have a dune buggy that mine, and you have to imagine how big this dune buggy is to mine any reasonable amount of resources.
Oh, it's like something out of Homeworld, isn't it? It has to be something out of Homeworld. Like that big. Yeah, have you ever seen Deserts of Karak?
I haven't played it, but I have seen it. I have a few friends who love the thing. And,
Have you seen the size? Just the size of the
they're
vehicle? Like,
gigantic.
I know. It's like that's awesome. That's brilliant. That's
Yeah.
what you want. You want a big, big machine that just like completely and utterly just rolls through everything. You know.
Yeah, to do big
great.
things, you need big. Like it's the same thing. I made a video about that. The comparison of why you need all those people in Mass Effect 2. You look at an auditorium. How do you cool off an auditorium for a lot of people? Well, you could buy individual fans per seat, or you get a giant air conditioning on the roof of your building that circulates air and cools it, and shoots it into the auditorium through a completely efficient manner, as opposed to cheap little $10 fans. So yeah, in order to solve problems, they have to be on the right scale. So yeah, I don't know what magic the science fiction world is going to bring to Mass Effect. It is beyond a lot of our, again, we don't know much. No one knows anything,
Oh
and
yeah.
and there's not much for us to talk about. But what we've seen so far is not looking good.
Oh no, it's like the whole resource gathering thing. Like your character walks up towards a lithium pile that happens to be on the ground and gets out his spoon and just like sticks it in his pocket and it's like, yeah, that's my lithium deposit right there. Like the whole like scanning process. I wouldn't mind if, let's say, you went up to a vein and then you scanned it and then suddenly your ship, the Tempest flew over and then dropped a mining drop pod and then you sort of see it unfold,
Yeah,
unpack.
yeah,
That'd be
exactly.
really cool, wouldn't it?
See, when you played Mass Effect 1 and you went on a planet and you found some whatever, you dropped a little beacon.
Beacon, yeah.
It's like,
mine.
okay, we know something's here. We'll get it later. Gotcha. So when you saw I don't know if it was a repair pod or an upgrade pod, I was thinking, oh, that could work. That makes sense. You could have a beacon. It just drops in a certain location, and it's like, okay, I'm gonna mine this. It's gonna come back during the next story mission. I'll get all these resources or whatever. Perfect. Makes absolute sense.
It's like, nope.
Nope, we're not doing that. You just press a button, you collect it like in a Dragon Age Inquisition. You just pull out a hammer, ding, ding, ding. Here's a massive amount of iron ore. I'm going to lug around with me.
I love that in the Inquisition where it's like, behold, I am the leader of this Inquisition. One set, I'm getting more elf fruit.
Oh my god, I gotta get all these herbs. These people are dying out there. They're cutting their fingers on paper, and I gotta heal them all.
The best moment of that one was, I know it's at the start of Dragon Inquisition, but it's like, oh, my husband's ring, I've lost it. Fear not, I shall stop the Inquisition and all the demons that shall be put on hold. I have to find this ring. It's like, oh my god, just no. Can someone else do that, please? I mean, it's right there. It's like 50 meters to her left. All she has to do is just walk out there and pick it up. Then, of course, like you say, like, because this is science fiction, I was kind of hoping that things would be done a little bit more with, like, I like the holographic displays and such, like a little bit more like the game like Dead Space. The whole idea of, like, you have like the holograms being sort of within there. I was like, that'd be more cool. Like, rather than having to talk to someone like, okay, complete this quest. Okay, I need to travel all the way back. No. Right, what do you want to talk about? You can do this over the phone or something. I'm just
Right.
saying.
We have amazing technology to do half the stuff in half the time that would take the average person by hand days or whatever. Yeah. Hey, I got that thing you wanted. I will transfer it to you digitally because that is what the data you wanted. I don't need to physically go to you, knock on your door. Hey, Bob, what's your email address? I'm going to send it to you. Thank you. So yeah, there's a lot of things that the open world concept leaves a lot to be desired. And the one thing that bothered me, I think The Witcher 3, as good as the open world concept was, because the plot was so laser focused on finding your daughter, and every it was so dramatic. Like, you have to go find her, you must find her, else the world's gonna. You have to do this. It's like, okay, and then wait, what's that over there? And then you go kill a bunch of monsters.
It's
Yeah,
the Elder Scrolls effect. Yeah.
yeah. So it's kind of like these are two very good things that just don't mesh well together. So
That would actually, that would actually be something interesting where you'd actually have, like, I don't want to call it a timer, but because let's say because I'm only assuming this from the picture, the box art picture where you see the Hyperion crashing. At least they didn't call it the Icarus or something like that. That would just be hilarious. But like if let's say there was an actual timer on like there's like you have to go out there and you have to find something quickly because those people on the cryopods are going to die. Like
right.
that's your reason why you need to find a homeworld, and you can only have like it's like the first Fallout game where you've got like X amount of days to like do something before like the people run out of is it water? I think it's the water purification, and obviously you can do things to extend that.
Yeah, the first game was the water chip. The second game was the Gek, and it's kind of funny because when you're playing, you're just like, oh, I love exploring, and then all of a sudden you get this vision, and your shaman is like, we're struggling. Where are you? And you're like, oh crap!
Oh yeah, I've got to do something. It's
totally
like,
forgot about that. And then the game
yeah.
ends if you don't do it within a certain time limit. Yeah, so a time limit would work. I don't
Could be
like
a mission
time limits,
time limit.
but yeah, like a mission, a specific
Like-
mission time limit would work.
like in Mass Effect 2, where if you did if you basically deed around a bit too much, then all your crew members kind of got melted.
Right. Yeah,
Something like that.
that's fine.
It's simple.
But that's the thing. They took that out. That was one of the specific elements they took out of
The
Andromeda.
consequence.
Oh, I don't. If I go here, then I can't do that. Well, that's the point of making choices. When you make one choice, another choice is closed to you. That's kind of the point. So you don't have a perfect world. That's a good. You want things to be imperfect. You want this believable world where one choice closes off others but leads to other choices. And to do that is, I don't know if that's a good or bad thing. It could play out very well because that gives the player a lot more freedom, but it tones down the pacing as well as the drama because there's no sense of urgency. And that could be good. It could be bad. Again, I'm more focused on the choices themselves and the drama behind them and how that impacts the protagonist, as opposed to, oh, now I can't equip that new gun I was going to get, so I can't blow away a guy twice as fast. It's like whoop-de-doo. So you want meaning behind everything. You want meaning behind the guns, the gunplay, the story choices, the relationships. And God, there's a lot of relationships. I'm not even going to talk about that.
That's just fluff to me now. That is,
It is so silly. Like they pretty much just want to make a dating simulator in space.
Oh yeah.
They should just go out and do that and just make it like Mass Effect Ilium or Mass Effect whatever the demographic is for people like that, because that's all they want. And it'll do well. It'll sell. Make it the right genre. Make it a story, a visual novel like the Japan visual novels. Go crazy with voice acting and senpai notice me moments and all this other crap. And they'll make a killing. They'll really make a lot of money. And they could actually hire Telltale to do it. And they will just make every single thing. It doesn't even have to be cinematic. It could just be 2D. People will buy it,
I'm just imagining now the fan fiction of like when Sarum met Sovereign. He's like, "Oh, senpai noticed me."
Oh my god!
Sovereign's like, "Oh my god, I've been here for millions of years, and now you notice me." And Sauron's like, "Oh, hi, I see you too, baby." Like, oh no, that's a vision I want expunged from my brain now.
That was a thought that would never have entered my brain. And
only mine.
And now it has. Oh my god. We will never speak of it. This is why I don't have you on as much, I think.
There's the random stuff that just pops out of my little head. Yeah.
Well, it's probably not as bad as some of the other wonderful people on the Facebook Mass Effect fan page that every day it's frightening. They just destroy the feed. Like, here's me. What should I cosplay as? And then you have an entire day of random Mass Effect fans doing selfies. Who do I look like? It's like, you look like Kelly Chambers. And I'm like, what? What?
Kelly Chambers. What you do is dye your hair red and cut it a bit short, and that's it. You're Kelly Chambers.
They're fans. So they're always going to say things that don't make any sense. And it's like, okay, well, these people, as long as they're having fun and they're harmless, but you can't get any. You'll find the random one or two people who will say things seriously and rationally The rest are just crazy, rabid fanboys and girls. And again, if that's your thing, good for you. But for critical analysis, it's like talking to the wall. So
it's like when people do those in-depth trailer analysis, even though we've kind of done that ourselves. So hypocrisy. But it's like when they go really super duper in depth, but in the most superfluous kind of way. Like they're just talking nothing. Like it's a teaser trailer. It's going to show you off a teaser, and yet they've got like this 15-minute video on it. And you're just like,
if you want to find a dozen or two Mass Effect YouTube channels that just gush over every trailer, and will start like they'll talk about the Greek background of the word Hyperion and what that means and what it could. It's like, oh my God, holy Jesus!
It's a spaceship. It's going into space. It's just a name.
It's like what are these? Like I do a lot of analysis of other things outside of video games, so it's sort of a thing I do. But it's a fan level that's beyond Star Wars. Like it's sort of. When you think of Star Wars, you think of the rabid fanboy. You think of Star Trek, you think of the more sophisticated, sort of orthodox science fiction is awesome kind of guy. And then with Mass Effect, it's almost a cross between the two. There's just rabid fanboyism, and then there's like this weird, cultish sort of. If you don't think my way and you're a fan, you're a terrorist. You want to murder everyone. It's like this is on my channel. I don't know if people have noticed, but there are people like that, and I have to report them. And sometimes they delete their own posts when they call me a murderer or a terrorist or inciting murder. Like this is illegal. This is pretty much what you don't do. It's called slander.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's kind of strange, and I don't know why people cannot appreciate a difference of opinion. We're all in the same boat. We're all looking at the marketplace of games and media and entertainment and going, yeah, this is good. We like this. We don't like that. This is a version of that was done 20 years ago. Apparently the newest Star Wars movie is great. I don't know. I haven't seen it.
Rogue One, is that?
Yeah, I've heard good things. After the last movie, I'm very skeptical, but who knows? It's another...
It's a prequel, so it's more about the in-between parts, because we kind of know what happens, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like the Titanic. You're like, okay, I know what the Titanic's going to be.
Yeah, the ship's going to sink.
Yeah, but is it about how good is the drama? How good is the romance story? Is it a worthy romance story? I still haven't watched the movie. I'm assuming it must be good because people keep talking about it.
It's probably... What else is there now? Should we just bash on the cat a little bit more?
We don't know anything about them. We really...
It's like when he talked about the evolution of how they were going through the design process of it all, and one of the defining factors between organics and synthetics is actually the induction of element 0, to create biotics. That's the huge separation between the two. And like, what is the cat? What would element 0 do to this new alien race? Would they utilize biotics in the same way as us, or would they go down a completely, or would it change their evolutionary path? Like, would they armor up a lot better? Would they be able to essentially generate their own mass? So they can fly without wings. So they become a lot more effective in combat rather than just being a standard bipedal Humpty Dumpty enemy kind of thing.
Well, yeah, there's really not much inspiration from the kit from what we've seen. I know there's different versions of the kit that the designer was talking about, but the carapace head, the armor, it really didn't impress me. It didn't speak to me as, oh wow, look at that. It's another biped with chitin on its body.
Well, that's the thing as well. They always talk about it looks a lot more organic. It's like, is it organic or is it bolted on? Because if you sort of, I don't think nature would be able to kind of predict like high velocity rounds going at near speed of light to impact against it, But I'm just because your armor follows function over what weaponry is being used against you, So like we have kinetic based rounds. That's why we develop Kevlar and ceramic plating. That's you react to the threat that's currently engaging you. So the cat armor would basically be purely reactant as to what their primary enemy is going to be. and these humans coming along, and Taurians, Solarians, and Asari, etc., are going to be like are going to completely come out of left field, and they're going to keep completely come out of left field for us. So there's going to be like this almost miniature arms race to keep, to basically protect yourselves. You don't need to be like, oh yeah, our body armor and our shields are completely useless in this combat scenario.
It really depends, because a lot of the bipedal organisms in Mass Effect, they're not too diverse. If you look at the hump on Turians and Krogans, you look at the leg structure of even the Quarians, they're all very similar. The real three major are the ones that we don't get to play with, which are the Volus, the Hanar, and the
Elcor.
The Elcor, right? Those are the most diverse. So I was hoping to see, or at least hear about, something really alien looking, not bipedal, maybe aquatic looking, something that is like, yep, that's alien.
Well, that's what I was hoping for the Remnants, because when I first saw the Remnants little droid thing, I was like, that looks something very familiar out of Crisis. The aliens out of that. They kind of look like the squiddies out of Matrix.
Okay.
Like they basically float around. I was like, that'd be rather interesting. Like, you've got this alien race that just basically appears out of nowhere, and they just float around because they can. It's like, and you put that in a combat scenario, and then suddenly cover becomes an entirely new concept, and then you've got the jetpack. I don't know how you could sort of utilize it, but imagine like Vanguard charging people in midair and like knocking them out.
Well, Vanguard charge was my saving grace for Mass Effect 2, and it still does not impress me. It does not. It's supposed to, like, you hit like a Mack truck and the guy just sort of just stands there.
Ooh, sorry, I bumped into you there, mate.
Yeah, at like Mach 2. Sorry, I didn't see it.
Everyone's Canadian. It's like, oh, sorry, buddy.
So yeah, I know. I want that actual impact to mean something. I want it to visually do something. I was really happy to see the Mass Effect 3 heavy melee attack. Everyone had a different one. I thought that was nice. That was, people were talking about that in the forums back in the day, saying, well, maybe a certain class has a certain melee because they have different specializations. Like, that makes totally sense. And that went through iterations. I remember there was that the Sentinel had a gauntlet once. It was just this giant punch, and then it somehow transformed into dual-bladed. What do you call those blades again? I hate those things.
Omni-blades.
Omni-blades. It's like, well, if the Sentinel has two, why doesn't the soldier have two? Because he does one. And it's just all these little things that didn't quite mesh. But again, it's specialization. Great.
Yeah.
You're playing your class. Good for you. It's totally fine. So, yeah, I mean, that's just little nitpicks there for gameplay. I'm not big on gameplay. I think it's very important, of course. But because it's deviated from Mass Effect 1 so strongly, it's become its own thing. So
yeah, I don't think this is becoming. I don't think they've said that they want this to become another trilogy. I think this is kind of the last shot, kind of, so to speak. If it does, kind of like Dragon Age Inquisition,
right?
It's
they're hoping. With the Dragon Age series has been linear. It's been in succession, succession. So it's been 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going 600. Like, this is a massive time skip for no reason aside from lore explanations with the FTL. So you're pretty much abandoning everything that made BioWare games good, which is continuity. Now, not to say continuity was very strong in Mass Effect or Dragon Age. There's been lots of retcons, for sure, but you're just throwing that all away. You're throwing all the, I wonder if I'll see Liara. Nope, you're not going to see her. There's no chance of anything. So I don't know. Why would they do that? I really can't explain. And the only thing I can look at is the ending of Mass Effect 3. It all comes back to that. And it's the gift that keeps on giving. It explains everything. It breaks everything. It's always going to be. You're going to look at Mass Effect Andromeda and go, "Yep, ending of Mass Effect 3. This is why it's there. This is why we can't do things in the Milky Way anymore. This is why we can't have little blue children that a lot of fans wanted. All the things that made Mass Effect were destroyed in that ending. So, people are saying get over it. It's like, well, I'm trying. It's really hard. You cannot tone down. Like, you have the most amazing experience of your life. You read the most entertaining book of your life. You do all these positive things. And then you have the most horrific experience of your life, or the most horrific reading faux pas you have ever encountered. A creative team producing on a $1 million budget for entertainment, and you're just like, oh my goodness, how did this happen? So, I really hope this does not come back to haunt them, BioWare, because I think this is their make or break deal. If they do not do well, what do they got? They do have a new IP. It's coming out sometime, or they're going to announce it sometime next year. We don't know.
Yeah, because the thing, I'm not sure what's going to deal with that though. But yeah, with the Mass Effect series, with Andromeda anyway, the more I look at it, it's kind of like why I call this Mass Effect, because you're just removing yourself from the entirety of the Mass Effect system. There's no mass relays, there's no Reapers or anything like that, or anything, and you're just like, why?
Well, they tried a new IP about a year or two ago, and it was this online 4-player multiplayer thing, and they canned it. And it was like Shadow. They had all these real-time actors do videos, like they were like mutants, and one guy could light stuff on fire, and it was like, what? It was called Shadow something. It was like, yeah, there was
never heard of this.
Oh, it was a big thing. Everyone was like, what the hell's going on with all these videos?
I must have been hibernating.
Well, again, this went nowhere. They canned it, right? So
just like Command and Conquer, yeah.
I think it was called Shadow Realm. I can't remember. Anyway, and it made no sense. I was like, what is going on? And they showed I can't remember if it was E3 or some other trades demo. And people were playing it. It's like, okay, it's a multiplayer thing, but feedback wasn't too responsive. And then they just canned it. And you were like, geez, that's horrible. Like, they just destroyed it without even getting off the ground. So, I don't know. It's not looking good for BioWare.
No, especially after, what was it? The MMO that they tried to produce.
Well, it did sell. Inquisition did sell. And
I meant Star Wars: The Old Republic.
Oh, that. Oh, geez. That is a...
That's what I mean by the MMO. It's like...
I tried to erase that from my memory. That was so bad. Oh, getting David Hayter and all these other voice actors to do other Oh, my goodness, yeah.
Yeah, that you could do an entire video as to why that one. But it's like you look at it. Oh, sorry, speaking about Andromeda's multiplayer, the thing that what I'm hearing about that one is they say that it's more akin to like Mass Effect 3's multiplayer. I was like, oh great, so you've got all these big open worlds that you can explore in the single player, and then with your friends you're in this one little room, and I'm just like, that's a kick in the balls, that is. Well, why not go around and explore with your friends?
That's a very good point, but a lot of people love the multiplayer, and that was one of the redeeming qualities of Mass Effect 3. And I bet a lot of people who are fans of the franchise and realize how bad the ending was say, you know what, I'll probably just get the game for multiplayer because it's going to be fun. And that's a totally legitimate reason to buy a game, because that's what you do with games. You have fun with them. So yeah, I mean, that's...
Well, actually, a lot of the mechanics that they utilize in Andromeda actually came from ME3's multiplayer. You know, like the slide dash and the rolling and stuff. Well,
oh,
not
really?
the slide. Yeah, like if you look at one of the Biotic, it's in the gameplay trailer itself where he attacks this little outpost before the mechs come down, and you actually see him do like a sort of Biotic slide. And that's only what like the Asari can do in Mass Effect 3 multiplayer. So I reckon they've utilized. You've got things like he builds a wall, like this omni wall and such. Like there's lots of little abilities that are from the classes of ME3 that they've included in there. So it looks like they are taking some. So from a gameplay standpoint, that they are making a lot more kinetic and fast pace, which is good, you know. But the thing is, though, with BioWare, this one thing I've noticed from gameplay standpoint is, whenever they try to evolve the shooting standards and what have you, they always end up like taking away something else. You know, these aren't. They still aren't up to the standards of, say, Gears of War or Ghost Recon Advanced Warfighter 2. You know, and those were games that came out in 2007. it's going to be a while before they even get to that stage and keep up with this with the story aspect as well.
Well, when the multiplayer demo came out before the game was released, it was free, so I downloaded it and played it. It was fun. I arguably had a good time. It was a lot simpler, obviously, because they were using that as a test for their stresses for when the game was launched, and they got some of the bugs figured out, some balancing going on. So that seems to be the way to go. Making these big ass titles is to use a beta or an alpha, get free downloads going, or whatever deal you have with your user base, have them test it out, have them tweak it, come back, release at launch. If there's something you missed, patch it first day or patch it next month or whatever it is. And you've got a decent game going. Now, I don't know how that works going into the single player mode, because I remember playing Mass Effect 3, some maps that were in multiplayer as Shepard, and I was like, whoa, this is this is like Snowbase B or something. Like, what's going on? And there's all these waves and waves and waves of Cerberus troopers that come out of nowhere, and you're like, okay, this is not right. But that's Cerberus for you.
I don't seem to, as well, when you're talking about like the multiplayer, at least when I noticed when I played Dragon Inquisition, I thought I jumped with the multiplayer and I looked at the gems that you have to buy, and the thing that really blew my mind is that with Mass Effect 3's multiplayer, you paid something like 250 BioWare points or whatever it was like a couple of dollars, but then with Dragon Age Inquisition, and they were selling these gems for like £60, and I was just like, that was like, yeah, like £60 worth. So you get like a ton of them, don't get me wrong. But I'm just like, this is the price of the game. What? This is like whaling level standards here of what they're trying to. It's like, are they that desperate for money that they're offering all these different tiers? Like, I was absolutely blown away by it. Just
right.
the ballsy of kind of going, here's, this multiplayer stuff that's going to be completely irrelevant in like 8 months' time. Buy the equivalent of the original game package on you. I'm just like, whoa.
Yeah, that's like the super deluxe editions or the pre-order editions. They don't even describe what those multiplayer packs are exactly.
Yeah,
it's based like that. The super deluxe is like a $70 more. It's just the same stuff in the previous version, but a lot more, and you get a bigger multiplayer bonus of something. And who knows what you get? I mean, it's obviously you're going to get a lot more, but is it going to be worth it? Who knows? I didn't even touch the multiplayer for Dragon Age Inquisition. I heard there was like a Isabella from Dragon Age 2 pops in, and you're like, what? Why?
No idea.
Yeah, I don't know. Again, they're appealing to very different players now. I don't know if that's a good or bad thing, but if it makes the game better for gameplay, great. More power to where they're going. The problem is it's no longer Mass Effect. Mass Effect was never about strong shooting corridors with shooting galleries with chest-high walls. It never was. The level design never reflected that. It was always based off scale. It's like, okay, I'm in a freaking space station. This is huge. Look at the size of this thing. Whereas in Mass Effect 2 is like, oh, here's a corridor. And there's boxes everywhere. Gee, I wonder oh, look, I'm getting shot at. Okay. So the design was it wasn't believable. Even though it was probably more fast-paced, the action was there. You had, special weapons and whatnot that could do the right things at the right time. So there has to be a balance, I think, between believability of design and function and just making tighter gameplay. It can't be that hard to ask a designer or an architect for visual design saying, hey, I want this to look like a space station. I want this to look like the hull of a ship, but also we're going to have some elements where we're jumping between cover and we're running around and we're launching ourselves across the place. Can you do that right? So there has to be a fine balance. And I hope that they also have stress tests like they did for Mass Effect 3 for alphas, the multiplayer demos for I think it was 2-3 weeks. That was it. That's all they needed. And just to get the kinks out. And hopefully people will get their money's worth. I really hope that, because I'm not here to hate on the game, really.
Yeah.
We're just here to have fun and poke fun at the obvious problems that we see coming. And if you know what, if we're wrong, that is the best thing that could happen. I think if all of our thoughts and all of our logic is wrong, great. They've solved the problems. BioWare will have a hit, and they can make many more of these games, hopefully, in the future. But I don't know. It's just not attractive to me enough.
I wonder if they're going to bring back the cane. You know, the big
oh
gun.
boy.
Because I bet you is that the ending mission is going to be like the last one where it's like, okay, this is the only suitable homeworld for humans, and you're going to be firing off cane like firing off nuclear weaponry. And it's like, right, guys, I've solved, I've got rid of the enemy now. The planet's completely irradiated, but it's still suitable for humanity.
That's one way to. Well, that's colonization. You kill everyone around you, and then you claim the land for yourself. That's how it should. That's how historically it works.
That's one of the things I don't understand about the whole. It's like we're doing this. It's like we're trying to find a new homeworld for humanity, and it's like, well, no, you're not, because you left willingly. It wasn't like the Reapers are killing everything, and then you're the last remnant. You're the last kind of, of your people kind of stuff. So the whole you're doing this for humanity is a complete crock of crap in my book. Really, it just doesn't gel well with me. It's like if there's some kind of urgency, like say for example. We need to go to Mars because Earth's dying. Therefore, the expedition that we sent is for humanity's sake. But this one's just kind of like, yeah, we're just going. What should we tell the people? What's a good buzzword? Oh, yeah, that's another thing as well. Because they said that this thing's all privately funded, right?
Right.
And it's like, are we going to see like Coca-Cola adverts in Hyperion? Like every time she's like some kind of speech, she's like, and now a word from our sponsors, Kellogg's.
Well, if they do it right, if they have like an advertising blitz before release, where they have like secret journals or videos of Gian Garson or whatever her name was, say we're secretly doing this because the Reapers are coming, and we have to preserve our species and our galaxy, and if they show that, because we don't know why we're going there. There's no we have no good reason, and all we need is a good solid reason that's explained well. It could be a horrible reason, so long as it's like, oh, okay, it makes sense. I see why they're going with that, and it answers at least some of the questions we have. Then we say, okay, it can't just be because. You can't just have that reason. It can't just be we wanted to do it because we're entrepreneurs and we're excited about discovering alien life. It's like you have a frickin' galaxy you're already in. You've barely discovered 90% of it. Go crazy there. So that's what they could do to solve that problem. There's all kinds of problems we can talk about. We can go on for hours and hours about.
Oh, geez, yeah. I mean, we probably tread on ground similar, then we end up getting drunk and then depressed and yeah.
All the wonderful things that gamers do when it comes to game design. Why did they do this? Or all writers, they say, oh, well, this writer could have done that. Or that's totally normal in critical analysis. So hopefully you guys enjoyed our little ramble here, and
it's not really critical from our part, is it? Really?
Well, it's unscripted, so you can't expect much from us. So.
At least not from me, anyway.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, guys, for listening, and we'll catch you later.
Thanks for tolerating us.